We'll call this meeting to order. It is 7:03. I'm Erin Kokinda. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director for the town. Everyone on Zoom, can you see the agenda that's pulled up? Good, okay, great. I just want to make sure. So just so everyone on Zoom knows as well, this is kind of a test for the hybrid model that we're using in the public safety meeting, hopefully to use for meetings moving forward. So please bear with me as I try to work through this, but I think we're good. So with that being said, I think it would be really helpful if we went around the room and just introduced ourselves. We have a really great group of people here. Again, I'm Erin Kokinda. I thought it'd be fun to do kind of like an icebreaker since this is the first time we're all meeting as the Economic Development Council, and this is the first time the town of Wakefield has had an Economic Development Council. So I'm really excited about this. So I've been working now, I can't believe it, for the town for 3.5 years. I was brought on as the Community and Economic Development Director. I work closely with the business community, both small and large, that are currently here, looking to retain them, as also looking to recruit new businesses. Work closely with property owners that may be looking to attract new businesses. But I've also found myself working on a number of plans that planning work as well that goes hand in hand with economic development. You've maybe seen me on screen talking about the bike and pedestrian plan as well as MBTA communities. And I think housing plays a big part in economic development goals and objectives, especially with our community. And I've lived in personal, I am a mom of 3. I've lived in Wakefield now for 11 years. I'm originally from outside Philadelphia, so not from Massachusetts originally. So I like to think I bring an outside perspective. And I think going around the room, 2 questions I want to ask the group is, what do you like the most about Wakefield? And where do you think Wakefield has the most potential when it comes to economic development? So what I like the most about Wakefield is this community that we have here. Over the last few years, I've really grown a great network of friends, not being from here. And no offense to all you Massachusetts people, it's really hard to get into being a Massachusetts if you're an outsider. Getting in here, and I feel like I've met a lot of great people within this community, and so I think that is the best thing. And I think if you have the right people within your community, anything can happen. And where do you think Wakefield has the most potential? I definitely think where we have the most potential is our downtown, and I think that's a big thing we'll talk about here. I think we have, and I'm not just saying this, one of the best downtowns in this region. I think there's so much potential there, and getting compared to other communities where they may have more businesses in town. I just think what we have here, whenever I'm downtown, there's always people walking around. It's just getting the right businesses here, and I'm hoping with this group we'll be able to make some things happen. So I'm going to pass it, whatever way should we go? We'll go this way. Go ahead.
All right.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Ed Dombrowski. I'm one of your town councilors. I had worked on creating this economic development council, so it's exciting to see this inaugural meeting of a new group in town. I have been on the town council with since 2017, so I'm in my 3rd term now. I have focused a lot on issues involving our local economy, economic development, and our downtown specifically. I have been working since 2018 on our Envision Wakefield downtown revitalization plan that is now coming to fruition. The first phase of which you see on Albion between North Ave and Main Street as one example of that, but it's improving streetscapes, creating a really different look and feel to our downtown with the hope that we can leverage that with attracting a lot of new businesses to come to our downtown, showing that we're making that infrastructure improvement and investment in the hopes that will encourage businesses to follow suit. We get a lot of comparisons to Melrose. I think that Melrose is a much more established Main Street, but we have a lot more potential. And when we're done with our Envision project, we'll be much more 21st century. In terms of design, in terms of aesthetic, and so I think it'll make Melrose actually look tired. So I'm looking forward to that. And actually, in fiscal 2026, the next phase of that with state funding. So that's exciting. I am outside of my town council role. I'm an attorney and small business owner. I have a law firm in downtown Boston, and I am really focused on, how it is that we can both support those businesses we have, as Aaron was saying, but also attract some businesses in a really highly competitive, regional, hyper competitive regional market. And so I think that's a lot of what we can do here. Hopefully we're able to tap into the talents of everyone that's a part of this council, and also tap into your contacts, because we're looking to have a really diverse group of folks who bring different perspectives, but also have connections to X, Y, or Z in a way that's going to be really meaningful to really make for a dynamic council. And the work that we do is going to directly impact and assist Erin in the work that she's doing. There's a lot of great opportunity, I think, out there, but it's a matter of sharpening our elbows and establishing Wakefield as the business-friendly environment that we want to, and how it is that we can draw businesses here when they're deciding between Wakefield or Reading or Stoneham or Lexington, whatever the case might be. And so I'm confident that with a lot of commitment from this council, we'll be able to do just that. So I think it's a really exciting time for us, and you really are the inaugural members of something that will be hopefully huge in the coming years, and the coming decades to come. So thank you for being a part of it, and I look forward to working with all of you.
I'm Julianne Orsino. I actually grew up in Melrose, and what's really interesting is it used to be the flip. So Melrose was not as cool and hip, and Wakefield was, that's where you went. And so it's been interesting to kind of see how it's shifted. Moved here about, I think it's going on 4 years ago. My wife and I came from Malden, and we watched, lived there 10 years and really watched Malden grow, and sometimes not grow in a great way. And that almost like unchecked growth had really negative impacts on the municipal budget, on the school budget, and the school system. So I work part-time for a company here in Wakefield, but I'm a consultant. I've had my own business for a while. And what's really great about being on this is kind of bringing a different perspective. I think I'm really data-centric, very like almost too logical at times. If I'm saying something, you're like, just be mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just really logical. But I'm very excited to be here. I think, what were the two questions?
Do you like most about Wakefield?
So the thing I like most about Wakefield, that what drew us here is actually the school system. And I think the school system within Wakefield is a massive plus that we're not leveraging. And with the new high school going in, with the vote going in, and with the talent that I've seen within our school system, I think that's something that we really should lean into. So that's the next one, right? Lean into.
The most potential, yeah, where Wakefield has the most potential.
We oftentimes, I think, because we see it all the time, because we're here all the time and we're downtown all the time, we see the challenges. I think we really need to lean into the positives that we have here, because there is the downtown, but then there's also almost like a little squares, I guess you could call them, that are doing remarkably well, and we don't raise that up. So my hope is that we can maybe take this opportunity to kind of look at all the successes that are here, and maybe use that as our foundation and start building that way, versus some of the challenges with, you go downtown, you see the open spaces, and you're like, we drove through Woburn the other day. Woburn downtown is phenomenal, but I noticed the empty storefronts, which you don't necessarily notice because they're really leaning into the positive there. So that's what I hoped we can accomplish here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miriam Hutt. I'm a town councilor along with Ed, and also in my third term, so 7th year. I'm really excited. When you're campaigning and you're talking to people, the most they talk about is what downtown looks like. And I will say I've seen progress in 7 years. So one of my favorite stories to tell, when I first got on the council, Chibo, if you guys have come down to Greenwood, Chibo was getting their license, and the owners reached out and they're like, we have a place in Melrose, which is no longer there, but we have a bakery in Melrose, and we're trying to own in Wakefield, and it's taking us so much longer to get our license in Wakefield. And it was before we had Erin, and before it was all modernized, and there was no one to answer their questions. And it was it was a 3 mile apart difference, but it was so much more complicated. And I think we've been able to help businesses like go through the process. And so we've come a long way. I think Erin's done great with meeting with potential people moving to town. I went to a newer coffee shop, Rise and Shine, and the owner can't stop talking about how much Erin was one of the reasons she moved here. So I think that's really great, and I think there's a lot more we can. There's a lot more that we can do, and I'm really glad that we're having like some dedicated support to help Erin and you know the town think about this. So what do I like most about Wakefield? I grew up. I am a local Massachusetts person. I grew up across on the other side of the lake, as I like to say, in Linfield. But my mom pushed me in a stroller around the lake, so I feel like I spent my whole life here. Wakefield has so this is partly why Erin's position is also the economic and community development. We were really forceful about including community. And I think our community is made up of amazing nonprofits. And I will always talk about that as being I've dedicated my life to nonprofits in the health field and the law field. But from the Boys and Girls Club to the Girl Scouts to the farmers market to our parade, we've just got to Blossoms. We were just talking about Blossoms. We've got these great nonprofits in town that do great programming. And I do think they're economic drivers. And I think we need to support them as such. And you think about the sports boosters, you're talking about the high school, our marching band, our a cappella groups. I mean, they are world renowned, they're nationally renowned. And how do we build an economy to support them in all of that? So I like the nonprofits and the groups are my favorite thing in Wakefield. And to pass on what Julie said, I think we have this opportunity to think of Wakefield beyond the downtown. And so as someone that lives in Greenwood, but I have a friend from Chelsea who weekly comes to Malthards to get his ice cream. Like people are going to different parts. And I think we get really stuck about thinking about 3 blocks downtown, which is amazing. But I think there's a lot of other places that we should consider. I like what was the phrase you used? What did you just say? Not neighborhoods. You said squares? Did you say squares? Squares. I think squares is like an interesting notion to think about.
It's very New England.
Yeah. I think square, like, so we've got some different places that we could think about of squares. And that really appeals to me. And then just the other thing, I know people, and you know, we get the calls, people focus on the empty storefronts. And I think we have an opportunity though, to focus on businesses that have been thriving. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at realtors in town and other companies, banks in town. But you know, people always joke, we have so many hairdressers and nail salons. Those have been in business for 40 years. And I think we need to be honest about who is providing their. I love that this talks about employee concerns. One of our goals is to talk about employee concerns because those businesses have been here for a long time, and we go to those businesses. They survive because we go to them. And so I really want to be mindful too of celebrating the businesses that have stuck it out and survived as they celebrate their 20th, 30th, 40th anniversary.
Thank you. I'm Allie Houghton. I grew up in Wakefield, been here my whole life. I am now raising my 2 sons in Wakefield. I'm the marketing coordinator for the Savings Bank. This is my 23rd year there. I am also the 2nd vice president of the Wakefield Chamber, so I work a lot with the small businesses in town through the chamber. I'm currently the president of WCAT, so I have some nonprofit side, and this is my last year as the PTO president for the Greenwood School. Some things that I like about Wakefield, I would say community. I think it's a really tight-knit community, which is great. I think, like my kids have made, I think, lifelong friends through the schools, which is, brought up the schools, how great they are. The strong point I think we have in town, I would say focus on the positives, the things that have been working, the small businesses that have been thriving and doing great, and the great groups that we have in town that have been thriving and doing well, and the amazing events that these groups put on that could really draw nice crowds to the community.
No, that
the most potential.
but I think
Yeah.
it's kind of, yeah, you did.
My name is Ann Hadley. I'm the president of JC Marketing. When we talk about anniversaries, my company is an event planning, PR, and marketing firm. And we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. We're located in the Civic Center on the second floor, so we see a lot of activity every single day. I've been involved with the Wakefield Chamber for, Chris and I have been there probably since the 80s. I was a member of the Wakefield Main Streets program, and I've been involved with many nonprofits in town, TSF, and I was on the Civic Center board and many school programs. I helped start a lot of the programs at high school, and a lot of the school programs. We did started Career Day and Shadow Day and different things like that. So I get involved with schools a lot. Just been involved. I'm the Chief Development Officer of the Angel Fund for ALS Research, which is located in Wakefield. So many, name all the things that we've done. But I love the history of Wakefield. If you ever have the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department historical calendar, we always have that history going there. I grew up in Wakefield. My children still live in Wakefield. My grandchildren live in Wakefield. Get involved with them. He comes to the Boys and Girls Club every day, and it's upstairs to visit. So, and I love the community spirit. I love the fact that my kids' friends and my friends still live in Wakefield. A lot of times when people that haven't lived in Wakefield and grew up in Wakefield are amazed that we all still have friends. I still see my friends from the first grade. I'm just amazed at how the camaraderie of Wakefield people. And I just love the fact that, it's just a good spirited town with a lot of history. And what I'd like to see is maybe a lot more of the merchants collaborating together. I find working with the chamber all these years, just the merchant collaboration really has been lacking. And I think I'd love to see a vibrant downtown. Years ago with the chamber, my father was a member of the chamber. My father started our company. My father was a member of the chamber for many years. And they used to have such a vibrant downtown with sidewalk sales, and they had so many merchants. They did the Miss Wakefield contest, and it was a thriving downtown, which I'd love to see come back.
My name is Ali Shukri. I'm a total transplant here. I moved to Massachusetts in 2013 for grad school. Got a part-time MBA at Northeastern, but otherwise I grew up all over the place, New York and Egypt, and a lot of back and forth. And then when I was in Massachusetts and Brookline, but I ended up buying a place here in 2019 into COVID, and I just started falling in love with Wakefield. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's true. I live with my wife and daughter. We live right on Moulton Playground, so we made friends in the playground. We made friends with my neighbors. I'm a self-published author. My books are at the public library. We go to the parade. So it happened very organically that I just got interested in the town, and I've never really been active in a public service role, and it just felt right. And then when I talked to Erin, it just felt more right. And I work in commercial real estate, and I do a mix of commercial leasing and investment property brokerage, but also some development and renovation projects in Somerville. And so when I moved here, I just started looking at things from a real estate perspective. It's sort of what I do, and the street where I live on, where Albion meets north, and then the commuter rail. I just look at it and I see tons of opportunities, and so here I am. I wanted to be involved, and I wanted to get to know more people in the town and just see what comes of it.
Chris Barrett. We've had a real estate business in Wakefield since 1969. I started selling real estate in Wakefield in 1986. And, a good part of my childhood was spent on Molten Playground, chasing ground balls and fly balls and whatnot out there. And back in the day, when you look at community, we had a parking structure. And a lot of the playgrounds and that kind of historical stuff where there was community programs and community stuff where your neighborhood went to the various playgrounds across Wakefield, and there was something that was put together where there was a street hockey team, there was a baseball team, and the kids from Molten Playground would go to Mapleway and play the kids from Mapleway Playground, and it made for a nice community feel. And the history someone mentioned earlier, this phenomenal history in Wakefield, and I've become a fan of a lot of the downtown buildings. I mean, one of the downtown buildings that I fell in love with was 316 Main Street. And there's now a Mojo sushi place in there. But that building has been sitting there since 1820. So it's just there's some iconic pieces in town that need to be promoted somewhat. But what do I like and where do I see potential? The historic blend into the Envision Wakefield for 2030. And you can integrate your future with your past. And the potential, I mean, you need to pull the best resource in town, which is the activity you see downtown, Lakeside, into downtown. And I think the key is how you integrate downtown with that primary square, but the other squares in town, going back to the little playground routes, there was another playground on the Linfield line where there's a nice little square where Four Corners is. There's a wonderful Greenwood playground in a Greenwood square. So that historically those areas were integrated through the playgrounds and through town programs. And so you're not reinventing anything, but you're reaching back to some of the community roots with a modern spin. And so the historical integration with the progressive future, and I think you said it's a tight-knit community. It can be historically, but it's also a welcoming community. And I don't, I spent my life bringing people into community. I don't see them as outsiders. So you're here, you belong. It's just a matter of being here. So I just like that aspect of Wakefield. Once you're here, you're here. And you're part of the community and you're part of the future. So I mean, I think those are the potentials, and that's what I like, what we're at.
Well, thank you everyone at this table. I think I'm gonna hand it off to Will. You're the first one I see on the squares. Hi, Will.
Myself, I haven't had a Zoom meeting since COVID, so just trying to catch up. Can everyone see me all right?
You're good.
Yes.
All right, all right. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight, and I'm very excited to be part of the group. A little bit about me. I'm a Boston native, born and raised in Belmont. And back in the early 2000s, we had somewhat of a renaissance in Belmont too, where it used to be a dry town. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but they started enacting liquor licenses and bringing restaurants with said license to the main street there on Leonard Street. And I did a lot of volunteering back then to kind of help bring Belmont Center kind of to somewhat to where it is today. And I've been a real estate agent in Boston for 23 years. I've seen Chris's signs all over the place. And I think that some of my favorite aspects of Wakefield would be pretty obvious. I mean, the proximity to Boston, just to be able to jump on the commuter rail, shoot down to North Station, catch a Celtics game, et cetera, so easily, I think is really nice. Working as a real estate agent in Boston proper and be able to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle is really great. The variety of all walks of life in Wakefield I really like too. It's kind of a melting pot, if you will. And just kind of something for everybody. I also agree with Chris in regards to the welcoming aspect of it. We moved here in 2018, leaving lots of kind of friends in the South End area. And, once my daughter Bella basically got into the school system and we started having gatherings, meeting the other parents kind of easily eased us into the Wakefield community, which is really great. And I guess probably what a lot of people agree on is 4th of July is pretty great here. I think it, brings a lot of people together in like a base patriotic, everyone have a safe, good time. I think a lot of people touched on great things in regards to potential. When my wife used to get off at the commuter rail on Albion, I'd be waiting for her to pick her up. And I would just always notice how when people got off the train, basically all you have to do is by walking down Albion onto Main Street creates a natural walking tour. So by developing those buildings, those businesses from that point all the way down would just really make it really unique. That's even something that Melrose doesn't have. Because even if you get off the commuter rail there, you're walking 5 minutes to Main Street, when here you can walk right off, shoot right down the Albion. There are some new businesses that are popping up there. I've been spending time trying to calculate how many empty storefronts are out there right now to kind of see where we can infuse some businesses into the area. And I have friends from yoga parlors to pre-made meals businesses that are looking for locations for brick and mortar. And I think that kind of tapping into our commercial real estate friend may also be a benefit. But I have other resources I like to bring to the table too, but I think that, there's just so much potential here.
Thanks, Will. Kimberly?
Cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Kimberly Meserve, also in real estate on the residential side. I'm kind of sad I can't be there in person tonight, but I'm due with my first baby any day now. So
Congratulations.
kind of stuck at home.
Congratulations.
Which is actually kind of what brought us to Wakefield. So my husband and I have lived here for a couple years now, and we were initially drawn to the area for the location. We loved, we were in Boston before. We loved that it was still close to Boston, but closer to friends. But what we've really fallen in love with is the community, like so many other people have said. My real estate business is actually based in Newton, though. And somebody mentioned the idea of like the squares. And I think that's something that Newton has done really well with their different villages. And I think there's a lot of potential for Wakefield to kind of, like others have echoed, having those different business districts that are all really thriving. I think that's like a huge potential that we have in the community. And I'm just excited to be a part of this group and participate and contribute in any way that I can.
Thank you, Kimberly. And I think last but not least is Rocco. I know your camera's off, so I don't know if you're able to.
I don't know why my camera's off. Like Will, I haven't participated in a Zoom meeting since the wretched days of COVID, but I'm sorry that you can't see me, but I am very happy and pleased to be part of this group. I grew up in Wakefield, got married in Wakefield, bought my first house in Wakefield. My parents actually still live in the house I grew up in on Gould Street, across from the 7-Eleven. I work at Wakefield Cooperative Bank. I am a senior vice president and interim chief lending officer there. To say I love this town is an understatement. Every morning I go for a walk. I come to the bank about 6:30 and I walk around downtown and I reflect on wonderful memories I've had in the town growing up. I echo a lot of the sentiments I've heard. There's a strong sense of community in Wakefield, and there's potential for even more. Love the idea of squares and villages. And one thing that I've always believed is a solid footprint for building community and economic development is the idea of shopping local. buying local, and just, we can't always, spend every dollar that we make in the town that we grow up in the town that we live in, but we do have the potential to do more in Wakefield. Being in banking and working right in town, we are a community bank, and I know that we could do more as a bank to lend more to small businesses and local community banks like ours all often feel the same way. So one of the things I like most about Wakefield is the common. In the summertime, people walking around the lake. I mean, there's so much potential there. And I just love the people. I love the train. I like everything about the town of Wakefield. And I'm here, sleeves rolled up, to do whatever I can to help. And Chris Barrett, I remember playing with your brother growing up in Wakefield. We used to go to Molten Playground and we used to hit tennis balls off of the West Side Social Club building there. So just plenty of great memories, and like I said, there's plenty of potential, and I'm here to do whatever I can to help out in that cause.
Thank you, Rocco. Well, it's so nice to have everyone here. I appreciate you guys giving the time. It sounds like we have a really great group here that can bring a lot of different perspectives, which I think is really important when you're considering economic goals and objectives, which brings us to item 4. And I apologize. I've never been, I'm not saying I'm the chair. I'm just leading this meeting now until we designate a chair. I haven't really been saying like item 1, item 2, but we're going to move on to item 4 and talking about the 2024 Economic Development Council goals and objectives, which I'll pull up here and I've printed out for everyone as well. I thought before we really dive into that and make sure it aligns with what you guys think, I thought I would just give you kind of a general overview of programs I've worked on. I kind of gave you a high level of what I've been doing economic development wise. When I started, so previously I used to work for the City of Lowell in their economic development office. So as you can imagine, the City of Lowell, you're working with a very diverse group of businesses. And one of the benefits too is they're a gateway city. And so they get a lot of CDBG funds, which is Community Development Block Grant funds, to run programs for the businesses. So we were able to run ample amounts of programs for the businesses, either whether that was sign and facade programs, looking at how do they look at their retail storefront, how do they revision it. We worked with a consultant to do that, to try to draw more people into their business. We did everything from making recruitment packets, and I find it's really challenging. This is a challenge, but maybe also an opportunity in small communities like Wakefield.
I'm sorry.
No.
Can you explain what a gateway community is?
So gateway cities, so they're once they hit their certain threshold with the demographics of the community, the minorities, also with income levels as well. They receive certain community block grant funds from the feds basically to implement more support, I guess you should say. So that money would go towards businesses, would go towards my department to support businesses, nonprofits as well. And so a lot of the funds would support gateway cities. So that would be like Lawrence, Lowell, Brockton, I believe is one of them, Fall River, those communities. So, which was great, which was, again, gave us a lot of flexibility in what we could do to support our businesses. And I find that as a challenge here. I've had many calls like, oh, what incentives do you have for me to locate here? Well, I can direct you into a place to go locate and be connected with the property owner. But I have been able to, and talking about COVID, it did open up a lot of opportunity for me to offer some things that maybe potentially I wasn't able to before because of some of the funds. So when I first started, I ran a digital marketing program to try to get some businesses up to speed to e-commerce, and then also marketing their business, if they'd update their website. And we gave up to grants up to, I believe, $5,000 for these businesses to work with a consultant to do their businesses, and we worked with 10 businesses. I've also received some grant funds to do a local rapid recovery program, which I sent that to you guys. It worked with a consultant through the state to kind of give us some ideas on how to bounce back from COVID and support our business community. There was no funds to really implement any of it, but a lot of great ideas. And then also right now I'm sitting on about $100,000 in earmark funds to do a sign and facade program, which sounds like a nice chunk of change. But at the end of the day, if we're making facade improvements, one property could probably take that $100,000 to make the improvements that we have. So I haven't rolled out that program yet because that's something I'd like some guidance from this group as well. And so, you know, I'm always there. My door is always open to help businesses connect them with property owners. But I think this group would be really helpful as to guide me on what programs you think, based on conversations you've had with businesses, small and large. A lot of these programs I'm talking about are a lot with small businesses, but I meet with folks over on Audubon Road quite a bit and hear about how, you know, business retention is going over there. I think we can all agree. A lot of them have, you know, seen a lot of businesses downsize. How do we attract businesses to locate here? Which I actually think with COVID, it's been a benefit to towns like Wakefield because people want to move outside the city. So I just want to give you guys more of a kind of what I've been doing so far, what programs have been offered. And then I figure that can kind of give you some guidance too as we look through the goals and objectives. So with that being said, do you think it makes sense for us? Has anyone had a chance to look through the goals and objectives? We'll kind of just go around the table and I don't know how we want to do this, see if it aligns with what you thought this group would be. And anyone chime in at any point as well.
I might just add, Aaron, that a few things to also be thinking about is Audubon Road being one example. We're talking a lot about small mom and pop shops, but the idea of Audubon Road and other opportunities where we can really tap into the high-tech sector. You know, we have such a great geographical location, and we have opportunities there to really, really drive new business and new growth, but also help our commercial tax base as a result of that, which is a, you know, net when you talk about schools, for instance, it's a huge driver, you know, and it helps keep property taxes down, but yet creates a larger tax base through our commercial tax rates and tax incentives, and the town council has historically not been scared to do that. We haven't had many opportunities to do it, but there have been instances where we have been very targeted and strategic in doing it. I think you know, this council is really important to support the work that Erin is doing and to help guide a lot of things going forward. But I think it's also a really good opportunity for the town council to have, you know, some encouragement, direction, feedback, you know, what you will, on some initiatives that this body can come up with too, which is going to be really helpful. And so I envision us being able to, you know, have targeted things about looking at, for example, tax relief, tax incentives, looking at the kind of incentives Erin was talking about that can attract new businesses. What can we do from a funding perspective? We have a really unique opportunity now with ARPA funding. If you're familiar with our ARPA funding, and to date we still have about 2 million, or just over 2 million left to allocate. My perspective on that is it was clearly for public health and economic recovery. That was those were the kind of two big buckets, if you will. And when it was signed into law, it passed into law, that was very clear that was the case. So I've actually I've submitted a proposal to our town administrator. We'll be talking about this at a town council meeting about how to allocate the remaining ARPA funds. So I've actually asked for $1 million of that to be dedicated to community and economic development initiatives in any number of ways. And I have the memo that I can hand around to folks so you know. But when Erin's talking about, and I know we've had many discussions where you say, there's so much potential to be doing things, but oftentimes you feel like you're not resourced in order to do it. You have to offer things up to businesses. And so my hope is that we can expand the facade signage program because there's an aesthetic component to that too. And if you feel like this is a charming downtown, for instance, it drives people there. You know, and people are interested in spending time there, dining outdoors, you know, do all those sorts of things that we're really trying to do. If you notice, you know, so many shopping malls are dying, right? And so many retailers are dying. And so I think going to make our downtown proper, our squares, as you mentioned, what's really going to create the longevity we're looking for in the vibrancy is really distinctive, unique businesses that you can't replicate on Amazon or through a website. And so thinking about that, you know, and so the idea of, we're actually fortunate in that our business community isn't a bunch of chains. If you think about Route 1 in Saugus, for instance, everything's pretty much a chain there. You know, we don't have that. We have the challenge of small businesses, but also the opportunity of small businesses. And there are so many destination businesses that we have within our community when you think about it. Be it Chivo, be it until recently the bread shop, you know, be it Brothers, that continues to be, you know, a mainstay. Will, you had mentioned Albion. There's so much, to your point, through the Envision project, we talked so much about that being a corridor and people being able to, you know, commute, walk, you know, or whatever mode of transportation, but come to our main street and that being a corridor. There, Chris, you live there basically, you know, with your business. You see there's so much opportunity there, and you know, how do we harness that? So I think a lot of that. Yeah,
one of the biggest things you're talking about is facade money. Yeah. And, you know, historically, you look at Melrose, and the key turnaround in Melrose was, I believe, a federal grant for $3.5 million. That changed downtown Melrose. And when they went through with all, and the other issue that Melrose has is parking behind all the buildings. You know, so how you allocate that money in some of the business districts might not be helpful for the squares, but I think the squares have different issues that you tie them in. But I think your focus for that money should be your business corridor downtown. The other thing you mentioned that needs to really be tied in and paid attention to is Edgewater Office Park is as beautiful an office park as there is in New England. You know, that's literally an award-winning integration of buildings into the site where it was done. So that whole area, I mean, there are so many opportunities in town, but you can't satisfy the opportunity the same way in every square. So your facade money goes, you know, business corridor downtown. You know, the promotion and the business ties in our Audubon Road. The square piece is, you know, getting unique businesses in the sense of community in the other little squares. So there's, you know, there's solutions and issues to satisfy in every square and every section, but I think there are different solutions.
So I'm glad you said Edgewater, because the one thing I've seen is we have lost our cornerstone industries. So we're talking about sort of small, really focusing on small business. And I think the one thing that is really truly missing from Wakefield that used to be here, there used to be cornerstone industries. They don't exist here anymore. And it really is an opportunity. I don't know if you're the attorney, I don't know if that funding, that $2 million, can be to kind of to attempt to bring in, you know, pharma companies or something that's something that maybe you don't immediately think is going to drive downtown. But once you have those cornerstone industries in place, then their employees come, they come downtown, the downtown business end. So it's like a cascade. But Edgewood used to be that, right? Edgewood used to be that.
So 2 years ago, just so you guys, I meant to bring this up as well as we were talking about like Edgewater and that area. So when I met with the edge now, sorry, they are doing a lot of work there to kind of modernize it, make it smaller spaces. They realize that's a market there. They've thought about maybe doing that life science industry, but really they found that they aren't getting the traction there. They told me they are far enough north, being on the other side of 128 and 95 or 93, that people don't cross over, like from the Lexington, which I thought was really interesting. So that's kind of a barrier, but we're able to attract this company from the Seaport 2 years ago through talking about tax credits through a state program and a local program called the EIP, a TIF program, a tax implement finance. So they're actually located right off Audubon Road, right by the Sheraton. There's a little life science pocket there. And they do something with batteries, something cool that I can't explain well. But basically the TIF program is something that maybe we think about moving forward and where the town stands on this, and this group, their perspective as well, is you give tax breaks on the incremental increase on their taxes on the build out that they do. So they were able to save some money at a local level with the build out the space that they did. It was able to kind of won on Wakefield over a few other communities they were looking at. But I agree, you know, if we can create this pocket, whether it be life sciences or other, you know, other businesses, we had, what was the large one that had one whole building over there? Over at the edge, I'm blanking, you know, but I think that's something I would really love to spend the time working with the broker over there, as well as the Hopsbrook, and any guidance that you guys have from a real estate perspective, I think would be really helpful. So. And the battery business was actually featured on 60 Minutes. Yeah. I mean, so just because like this little business, you know, not so little, but a nondescript business in Wakefield is featured on 60 Minutes. And so
it was a great story.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see it. And I was
a
little startled. I wasn't aware of it. And for the longtime townie, it's about promoting some of the stuff that we have in town. There's so many little hidden secrets in Wakefield that are so positive and so cool and will draw people here. You know, educationally, I'm still bitter about the TIF we didn't get to do downtown when we had the opportunity to build a parking garage. And a lot of your people in town didn't understand what an opportunity that was. And you know, the TIF got spun into, we're giving these greedy developers all this money. You know, my mind, personally criminal that we don't have a parking garage downtown when we had an opportunity to have one. So, you know, I think part of economic development is educating the population as to what you need to do to get to the ends you want for your community. Part of that is stuff like TIFs to draw people in here. I mean, what do you have to offer? Kind of like the paper's trying to recruit some players. Offer here. So you got to educate the population and sometimes spend some money, sometimes forego some tax money to get someone in a place you want to pay.
To your point, Chris, as well, you have such a team in place now on the town hall side. So you have Jim McDonald, our communications director, who is able to promote that, push that information out in a way that probably hasn't before. You know, I know we have some chamber folks here to be able to highlight some businesses too. You know, we have like Willows, right? And we also have the company. Its name is escaping me now, who makes the antlers and reindeer noses for vehicles. For it's literally just behind where Stylecraft used to be, where Sweet Bay is now. People don't know that. You know, these are really like unique, like world, in some respects, really world-known businesses, you know, or at least you know like the items that they're selling, you know, and I think we don't do, you know, with like these balsam airplanes that nobody even realizes are being manufactured, you know, like a quarter mile from where we're sitting here right now. So I think your point is well taken. Educating, and also it's a promotion and it's an education, isn't it, in some ways?
Now, you look back at some of the old, you know, Wakefield daily items 20, 30, 40 years ago, and there was always something going on. Wakefield had, you know, a really vibrant chamber of commerce, which we're working on. Ann and I have been directors, and Allie, we're all, you know, court executives on the chamber board, you know, to bring things to town. But the Chamber of Commerce had, you know, all kinds of ways, events, and sales. And I know, you know, this time has come and gone, but you know, things like this, and things like, you know, you mentioned the 4th of July parade. 4th of July. Wakefield's got one of the coolest historical old-time New England 4th of Julys. The draw for that, you know, all the stuff. It's the elements are here to jump forward. We just need to promote them and publicize them. Yes.
To piggyback off that, I do commercial leasing, and like was mentioned, you know, if it's on Amazon, it doesn't really work well in a store anymore. So the stuff that, you know, and a lot of the leasing that I'm doing is in Brookline, which is on the Green Line, highly trafficked, and the retail is still vacant for 3-6 months out of the year, except if you can't get it online. Art gallery, nail salon, beauty stuff, learning stuff, family stuff. And so in my mind, the intersection of what we're talking about is filling business or retail or commercial real estate that with businesses that will be there and thrive, but also preserving the family, friendly Massachusetts historical down-to-earth vibe of Massachusetts is maybe promoting certain types of Massachusetts-born companies or family-oriented businesses, or sort of giving incentives to steer almost higher occupancy, from tenants that are likely to last long and preserve the Wakefield culture.
Businesses, covers a lot of that. Picasso is a superstar in my mind for business and the way she markets herself and the way she's integrated with the community. She makes a beautiful splash on Albion Street. How do you find businesses to that end that are albeit family, community oriented with a unique spin and offering something that I didn't realize that there were that many Kid Cassos out there. So there are other ideas and there are other businesses.
Can I just suggest something? What if we weren't quite as open and welcoming as we think we are? What if we just so that we can maybe think a little bit differently. What if the reason why someone would choose Melrose over Wakefield is because Melrose appears to be more welcoming and open? Because I think what we're all talking about is almost assuming that we're at that point. So it's made this assumption that I always say there's three things a business is look for. It's an open and welcoming community, so they and their employees feel comfortable here. The schools are good, and the crime rate is low. Those are the three things that bigger businesses look for, right? Mm-hmm. So what if we actually started looking at, is there an opportunity here for us to really investigate whether we truly are an open and welcoming community? Because is that something that maybe is preventing us from maybe moving forward in a way that we have a little bit of blinders on, and not to, like I said, I'm a data person. Sometimes I say,
no, some of the data for Wakefield is horrible.
So if we actually look at that and say, is that an area of opportunity for us that we can really dig into and say, are there ways that we can rebrand? Like we can rebrand as a more open and welcoming, I'm just using those words.
I agree.
Yeah, that we can rebrand so that the reason why everyone goes to Melrose and like, oh, Melrose is great, is because Dolan did an amazing job at rebranding Melrose. He really did, and he turned it around. So we have the opportunity here maybe to do something like that with, so the item is not, if the item is going to be a way that we represent ourselves as a community, is there an opportunity for us to maybe have them present different perspectives? Because it does appear that they only present a certain perspective. If we're looking at a social media platform, do we have an opportunity to push out, not just within Wakefield, but at the state level? Because some of the stuff you're talking about, I keep sitting here thinking, oh, we should have Jason Lewis in here, sitting here, that we should invite some state representatives in here to come sit down. Because we're not a, who's it?
A gateway.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cities, so we're not going to qualify.
Yeah.
They're like,
but we're not
cities, but we would never
not,
qualify.
right.
So they're much bigger.
So how do we get the state to say, you know what, there's so much here on Wakefield, there's so much opportunity, let's come and really help them? Because I kind of feel like that's also a missed opportunity. Jason was here a couple of times for a couple of events.
Tuesday morning, the 12th.
Yeah, Tuesday morning, Chamber of Commerce, we have a legislative breakfast.
But what if we had them come here, right? Or
it's going to be after Sheridan.
They're in Malden every 10 minutes. They're in Melrose every 10 minutes. I've seen him here, and he's like, he stands in the corner. So I think there's an opportunity for us to maybe take all of what you're saying and say, but what if we flip it a little bit and we really kind of push this message that we're here, we're open for business, we want people to come, like you're saying, that as soon as you're on Wakefield, you're part of our community. And that's sort of rebranding, I think, some of the data points that maybe are challenging for us.
Only word I might change is not rebranding, but branding, because I'm not sure that we have a brand right now as a community. You know, I think that's an opportunity for us to really become known as something, and you know, I think business friendly is part of that brand, certainly.
So yeah, to talk about that a little bit, I did forget that. So I got a grant from the state. Again, I tied it into tourism with the lake, and we were able to do sort of this branding shop local project. And I'm more than happy. It's in my signature, and I meant to send it as a link to you guys. But we did do some fun videos, but basically highlighting why people choose Wakefield, why they live here, why they eat, you know, buy here, shop here. And I thought it turned out really great. And they shared them on the consultants shared them on different like social media avenues in different markets and things like that. And then the money ran out. So I've been trying to continue to keep it going. I can send you guys the link after this meeting so you can take a look. But I think it's just keeping the momentum going and what that looks like in a bigger picture too. But I completely agree. I think the data points are really important too. So.
To your point, when someone does want to come to Wakefield, do we make it easy for them to start a business? Do we make it hard for a business to come to Wakefield? Do we make it easy for a business? What the process is?
I think we've been able to streamline in recent years.
Yeah,
It's a positive way. It's certainly had been in existence.
well, yeah, I think even having me here, sometimes I'll just say calls. I don't know where to start. So I'm like, all right, let me.
I apologize for all those people I said that.
No. And I think just having a point person has
completely
been helpful. And like sometimes
that was the point of, I think, hiring you, is that we
yeah,
had needed a point person.
Yeah, because then I get not dragged. But you told different things, right? That's not the right word. This is being recorded, but you know, and I get it too from their different offices. This is what they handle. This is what they handle. But you don't have that person telling them to go like this. And trust me, it has a long way to go too. But I think we've gotten better at that. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And so I think this group too, and I think that's one of the goals and objectives is how do we streamline that from a town's perspective, right? I think one challenge too I want to throw out, and you know, this whole group, I think it's a goal or falls within a goal here, is how do we work with challenging property owners? Because I find that to be one of the largest challenges I have here. We have some really great spaces within all of our commercial corridors. Either the people don't want to kick in the money to make improvements to their stores, so then the tenant's like, I'm not paying that much money, and I'm the one that's going to have to make all those improvements. Or it's just this prolonged process where the property owner is carrying this person along, and then it just falls flat, you know? And I know this isn't just a Wakefield problem, this is a problem everywhere. But if anyone has seen this in other communities or has ideas, I think that would be really beneficial to move some projects along. Not even just the retail. I mean, I'm dealing with it too with some office spaces as well. So
especially our real estate folks, we have a view.
Yeah.
Let me go back to facade work. If you have Big 10 buildings that have issues, for lack of a better phrase, say we've got a facade program, just look what we get for rent. If we dressed up the front of the building and throw part of the TIF at that, throw some money at it, and then maybe you can coax some of the business or building owners forward a little bit, dress up some spots in town.
But it's still like the inside too, which has been the challenge. Not up to code in certain things. Yeah, it's a real challenge, and I think people want for their space sometimes isn't realistic, right? And so it just sits there, and that's really hard to explain to the public as well. You know, why isn't this space being filled? It's been sitting here forever. Oh, trust me, I've tried a million different ways to try to get in touch with this owner. I wish it was that easy, but yeah, so that's a challenge.
Because you have the carrot, right? The carrot is the money for the facade. You have to stay.
We tried that too.
So there's
with our building
bylaws.
inspector, yeah. Primarily the building inspector for
The
issues
Board of Health,
there. We've tried a lot.
So I think there's an opportunity going back to the question that you asked us, like, you know, there's going to be so much opportunities about applying for grants, like the federal government and the state, they're just going to give out grants. And I think, you know, for you to use this council as a resource about like, hey, what should I go after? You know, like checking it for a facade thing or checking it for, you know, knowing. And then what I really like, Erin, is like, I know you wear so many hats and, you know, you've got a busy couple of months coming up, but, you know, after town meeting, you get to take a vacation. But one thing that I would love this council to think about, I loved Ellie's idea about, you know, kind of the brick and mortar locations. And I love us to think about strategic and coordinated kind of who to go after. And like, I love the businesses, you know, Biden's administration has all this money coming for green technology. Like, is that something that in Wakefield we think about? We're gonna have, you know, our bike path soon. Like, we need a bike store in town, right? That's something that people like. There's one in Stoneham, and then so I think there's kind of these like, and so I think this like being strategic about what we're doing. I joke with Dan McGrath, like we could have pickleball, we could like run our whole rec department on pickleball rentals, right? And he's like, if you guys built more pickleball courts, people will come. And they come when we have indoor pickleball, people come to the Civic Center from all over, and then they go to the restaurants after. Like that is an economic development opportunity, right? So let's think about how we coordinate some of the other decisions that we've done. And just about the green energy, like one of the new things in Melrose that I like, and it's actually in a lot of other cities, is like swap exchanges or like recycling places, you know. And I love like give them an incentive to, you know, be in a storefront, but then it's like, hey, recycle your, you know, it's a swap, it's a co-op of recycling baby carriages or strollers or bikes. I think they do kids' toys, bikes in Wakefield. Yeah, in Melrose, isn't it?
Yeah, they reached out about another state, so I was trying to hook them up. I forget the name of that.
Is it the Loop? Yes, it's the Loop, yeah. So I think there's like these, like there's the traditional places, you know, and I spent hours and hours at that bookstore that used to be downtown Wakefield. But I think there's kind of these new, like the battery business. And so I think we should really be exploring some of that. And I think as much as we can coordinate it with what other committees, what the town council is working on, what, you know, REC is seeing, like, you know, I think recreational, just for everyone to know, again, our nonprofit sector and government and working with the business community, but they're seeing the folks that are doing the more than words, like the spoken word stuff. Like we need like big picture amazing if we had a theater for them to do that somewhere, right? Like, is that what we're missing? Of kind of like a black box theater for somebody to do performances. And so I think like to think about why people are coming and what's missing would be really, you know, we could spend some time thinking about that if we talk to other departments, like what the school, you know, one of the biggest things every year when we do Wakefield 101 and we hear people moving from Somerville or Brookline or Cambridge, and they're like, how does Wakefield not have a porch fest? Because you have these amazing musicians, right? How come we don't have porch fest? Like Malden has it, Melrose has it. And I think we are getting one this year, but you know, like, let's think about that. That's an economic driver, right? Yeah. So
we're talking about the rec programs too. I think a huge asset for our town and plays a huge role in economic development too. And talk about potential is our Albion Cultural Exchange building. Yes. And the rec department now that is run, you know, who's familiar with Albion Cultural Exchange? Is everyone here? Yeah, kind of, sort of. The rec department is now managing that building. And so they've brought in a lot of new great, other than visual arts, a lot of different arts there. They were supposed to have kind of it's called Children's Playhouse of Wakefield. We're supposed to have the children's theater program there. But the whole second floor needs to be renovated. And my dream would have like artists co-op space up there. But I just know with all these, like the storytelling and the Mike Night, how many people it's actually bringing. The Mary Lion did a special shop local thing there with all women-owned businesses back in the Christmas time. I probably had like 20 friends that went to that and then went to drinks and stuff after. So we're supporting the local businesses. So how do we continue to build off, like you were saying, our assets that are already here and use that as a marketing tool to attract new businesses as well? So what does that look like? I don't know. And where do you start? I don't know either.
But also, like you were saying, the people playing kickball are coming from outside the community, coming in and using, you know, the restaurants and everything.
The first time I went to pickleball was a Friday night. It was before pandemic. They used to do pickleball on Friday night. I walk into the civic center in the gym, and there's like 80 people playing pickleball on a Friday night, and I'm like, okay, and I was a beginner, so I was like, I'm at the beginner stuff, and everyone was super friendly. And then they're like, okay, we all go out. Like, where do you want to go to Public Kitchen? You want to go to Harrington's? And I was like, you guys do this every Friday? And they're like, every Friday. And one guy had driven from Billbrick up, and I was like, this is far.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm here every Friday. And I was like, wow, like. And we don't, like, I had no idea. So I do think there's things like that, right? I think people come for the theater or the book club at the library. Yeah. People come from all over, right? They found something they like. So yeah, hopefully our playgrounds will one day be world class. We're working on it, where other people come from other towns. Like the dog park. People come from other towns for the dog park.
Yeah. But looking at the other side of bringing people into the community, if we also not just focus on small businesses, but focus on larger business, you're creating jobs. You're bringing people into work from maybe outside the community, not just people that live in Wakefield. You're bringing people in who are then going to go out to the downtown for lunch, pick up their lunches. They're going to go out after work for drinks. They're going to spend time at some of our different events and spend time in the community and spend their money in the community.
One of the things that also have to be mindful of, I know it's kind of like at a higher level that we would be looking at it from, is making sure that we have a good mix of a residential and commercial tax base, because too many communities have migrated towards residential instead of commercial, and when you lose that balance, it can really, you need that equilibrium. If you don't have that, it can create real problems. And you know, we're seeing obviously Foundry is developing in really positive ways. Housing stock, but we're losing a lot of the commercial base as a result of that. And so thinking about those opportunities, and then talking about, you know, out road, but how do we maximize what we have? How do we grow that? The head of the lake now, you know, it will be residential, you know, as compared with commercial, so that commercial comes offline. How do we replace that? Because, you know, from a school's perspective to a services perspective, we need to have that tax revenue coming in, you know, in a meaningful way that's not a burden on the residents, because then that makes it less affordable to be. You know, so I think kind of like one of our overarching principles should be, how do we make sure we're keeping at least an eye on that to make sure that we're trying to balance those interests. And the other idea about, you know, how like leveraging our assets, obviously our greatest asset being the lake. I'm sure 9 out of 10 people are like, oh, I know the lake. But so I run marathons, so I do a lot of long training runs on the rail trail that goes to Lexington, so I park there. For one, their downtown area has really unique restaurants, stores, and services, things you're not going to find on Amazon. But they also have a running store. And so I, more times than not, either before or after a run, need to stop in there because I need something. We have a lot of runners, but we also have a lot of walkers. And so, you know, a store that caters to runners, walkers, you know, in that way, downtown within, you know, a quarter mile of the lake makes a lot of practical sense, right? But we haven't had that. But we have thousands upon thousands of people that come to the lake and enjoy it. And a lot of them are also pushing, you know, baby strollers. And we don't have any really kind of like family-oriented, you mentioned Picasso, which is great. We don't have other like family-oriented, like learning, you know, type stores that you then walk with the kids and check out afterwards, right? So I think maybe thinking about how we leverage those assets in a way that we find complementary businesses that are a natural fit for where we have would be helpful.
To conversations I've had with like these larger developments in town, and I think that's a great point about the mix of commercial and residential. And just a backstory too, when 200 Quantipower came in front front of us, that was right when I started. And they were saying it was mixed use. And then maybe this is something this group could help with too in drafting language. And I look, I'm like, wait, 1,000 square feet, you're calling this mixed use? Like, that's a far reach. And I do think, you know, the housing, that's a whole other topic, but I was able to put a letter in basically saying, I would love to see a larger footprint of commercial. And even though it's only 3,300, I think, square feet, what? 3 times. So at least we have, it would. But I think if we're able to kind of push back a little bit, I know now the one on Boundary is going to have a retail restaurant. Maybe there's something this group can work on collectively as these new developments are coming in. To kind of tell them how important, you know, that commercial tax base or commercial base is to us. And I think that's something that needs, that this group could help with.
Would that be something where like maybe a bylaw would make sense, where if somebody was coming in to build resident properties like that in a certain area of town, that we require them to put in so much?
You have a circle. I recently at Lake Street Lumberback. First for commercial. That's 2,500 ETA circle. That mixed use piece was really disappointing. That mixed use, 3,200 square feet. She does an upgrade from 1,000, but it would have been nice if it was 25,000 square feet. Not 440 units, but 300 with that much more mixed use space.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, chime in. I know it's always awkward when you're on Zoom.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to bring something up. You talk about recreation and all that. Both my boys and my grandkids play hockey a lot, and I know there's no hockey rink in Wakefield. And what a marvelous opportunity that would be to talk about people coming from all over the place to use the hockey rink. You can make a sportsplex, things like that. I know in Tewksbury there's a great hockey rink called Breakaway. People come there from all over the place, and then they end up, you know, with tournaments and all that, and they end up, you know, spending time in Tewksbury, and Tewksbury isn't even close to how much Wakefield has to offer. So, you know, I don't know if the new school is going to build a hockey rink, but I think a hockey rink's a great idea to, you know, invoke a community, and the local team can play there, and teams from you know, can come there. Last weekend we were in Rockland for my grandson played in a playoff tournament down there. It was like an hour away. It was a hike, but when we got there, that rink was beautiful. There was like 3 rinks, and there was restaurants in there, and there was a bar, and it was just amazing. And so that must bring a lot of you know, uh, good potential for Rockland, and I think something like that would be great potential in Wakefield.
That's a great idea, and we should look at all ideas. I don't have Chris or Ann's or yours institutional memory, but I do know that we did put out a bid for an ice hockey rink 7 years ago and got 0 bids for it. So it might be time to redo it. I don't know. Actually, we're building a new high school and a new vote where we would have asked for them to do it, but I think we had that idea. I don't think there's people that want to build hockey rinks right now, but that was 7 years ago. So something, I mean, again, I do think it would be used just like a community pool. Like that was another idea that people talked about, right? Bringing people together. So all
and there's another idea I kind of had. I noticed in Medford they just opened up a huge brew yard down there, and you know, things like that. It's a real I don't know, you know, vices being what they are and all that, but I know what, like back to Tewksbury, there's the Treehouse Brewery there. That place, you can't go near that place. You can't go near downtown Tewksbury on Thursday night, Friday nights, all weekend and most of the week. And that's a hot market right now, breweries and brew houses and things like that. And it isn't just for like guys sitting around drinking beer. I mean, you go to these places and there's families there, and they have all kinds of offerings there. That isn't just like a bar room, that kind of thing. It's more of a community space these days.
I just want to jump in because there's so many good ideas that everybody's sharing of like different businesses or different things that we would like to see. And I think every single one of us could come up with something that they would love to see downtown. Like I agree with the brewery, that would be cool. But I feel like we have to kind of take a step back and this I think has kind of been a brainstorming session of people having different ideas, but like when we think about this committee and like the productive use of everybody's time, we also need to solve like the more upstream problem of clearly it's not a matter of like if you build the commercial space, they will come. Because if you look at how many vacant storefronts we have, nobody's coming to fill those. What are the issues that are stopping breweries, stopping all these different or running store? I think that's a brilliant idea, especially with so many people like walking around the lake. What is causing these businesses to not come to Wakefield? And how do we productively remove those barriers for those business owners?
Great question.
I was just gonna say, because I think, should we put in place subcommittees? Because then it could be, you have a subcommittee that works on looking at the obstacles that are in place, or some of the commercial versus, so we could break out into groups into subcommittees. Like, how are we gonna structure?
Yeah,
how are we gonna structure
I think,
this?
yeah, I think, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think part of it is we wanted to be able to get a sense from this council about, you know, kind of like at a high level of where the topics are, you know, what the priorities are, and then from there we can kind of drill down a bit more. So it sounds like to your point, the idea of it sounds like support for current businesses and side programs, sorts of things. You know, what are the impediments? You know, and in a way, it kind of there is some overlap with branding or rebranding, isn't there? In terms of how are we marketing and how are we messaging? I guess on a broader sense, and where is the messaging not reaching the target audience to you know, attract? So what do we have to do differently in that regard? You know, so I think that probably is its own piece. Thinking about and that I guess we talk about the larger businesses versus smaller businesses. That kind of also falls into that same umbrella, I suppose, right? Like how is it that we try to target and market? I'm also hearing a lot about the idea of incentives and perhaps looking at ways in which we can shift or tax considerations for businesses, you know, for businesses too, or looking at coming here. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think the idea of maybe creating some several different buckets or umbrellas at this point, and then you're seeing where everyone's interest lies. Again, we have this unique position. This is the inaugural meeting, so we have a lot of opportunity to really chart the course. You know, and it sounds like already, I mean, there's great talent here, different perspectives on things, and I think we've identified a lot of different ways in which we can be effective. You know, but yeah, I think subcommittees probably do make a lot of sense, and they can really be like just like long-standing too, or they can be ad hoc if a particular issue comes up. If we're like, all right, you know, what's the outreach going to look like, you know, specifically? Part of what we're hoping for with this group is that folks have connections. You can open up your contacts, and hey, I know somebody, and I think Will, you mentioned this. You know, I know somebody who's looking for a brick and mortar.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking for. You know, and that person, you know, that contact you have, Will, maybe they know some other people, because oftentimes if you know one person in an industry, you know a lot of others too, or they know, and then the word spreads pretty quickly. And I've always said, you know, as long as we've talked about the downtown specifically, I don't care if we have a single original idea. I want our community to be a reflection of all the best ideas that others have tried and are tried and true. So if you're traveling in another community, either be it here or across the country, that's a really good idea. Let's bring it here. You know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel of all of this. You know, but let's just adopt best practices as are currently in place, because a lot of things that we like in other communities have gone through a lot of like thought sessions and planning and, you know, redesign and tweaking and all the rest. So let's lift that and drop it here. you know, I think that's a really important aspect of it.
I'd like to bring something up. As I mentioned when I talking earlier, I walk through downtown Wakefield every morning, and you know, sometimes it has to be visually appealing, and you know, a lot of people don't like talking about it, but there's a homelessness problem in Wakefield. I see some pretty unsavory things at 7 a.m. walking from the Wakefield Cooperative Bank down to farmland and over to, you know, further down. And, you know, I know 7 or 8 homeless people. And not only that, and I feel for these people, and I don't want to say anything, you know, negative or anything. I try to keep this positive, but that's an issue. And I understand the police's position on that. And I know there's very little he can do about it, but they're like in the vestibule in front of where the Smith's drugs were. And I know every city in town has that, but if you're looking to revitalize the downtown area, that's an issue that someone's going to have to take up. And on that note, where the Charm, I think it's a Thai restaurant, right next to that, there's like 2 buildings that are vacant, and the Smith's Drug is another building that's vacant, and there's this ugly brown paper over the windows. Why can't we take the brown paper out and have the kids come when they do all those pretty designs on the windows for the holidays? Why can't they do something with that so it's not ugly brown paper? So when people are driving through downtown Wakefield, they're not seeing all these negative things. Just you know, sorry to bring some things up that aren't very positive, but it's out there. I see it every day.
I know Erin had raised this as she put that question out to all of us. How can we help with that? Those two, there are, I'd say, a few different factors at play here. One of them is, I would say, landlord apathy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes we actually have communication barriers that have made that incredibly challenging. Sometimes it's strategic in the way that a property owner may be using that particular property as a part of their larger portfolio for tax purposes. There are any number of things, you know, that are at play there. So, you know, I think Aaron's question was more of a plea of, you know, anyone have ideas how to think about this differently?
Inside the box,
yeah. Yeah, because you know that I mean that the next to Charm there used to be a ski and sport shack. I know that they left because they didn't even have reliable heating anymore. You know, in the winter. So there are those issues, and the improvements have been modest, I think, at best in terms of, you know, but it's also a private business. You know, it's a privately owned property. So the town can incentivize, the town can use a carrot or stick approach, but the town can't ultimately control fully, you know, how, you know, or really at all once you get behind, you know, that glass. So I'm hopeful that with the Envision project, and there's a lot of schematics on that too in terms of how that'll look from a streetscape perspective. To Rocco's point, we're going to have a much more attractive downtown. We're going to have wider sidewalks. We're going to have opportunity for more alfresco dining, a lot of different plantings, safer crosswalks, a lot of things that will make it more attractive to people who want to go, you know, maybe with kids or want to go for a walk down there, and it'll feel more inviting, I'd say. But that issue remains that, you know, Aaron, there's probably been how many at this point businesses that have inquired about those spaces?
Oh, 20 to 30 since I started.
Easily, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And Smith Drug's the same thing. I mean, there's so many, and I think everyone walking by is like, this would be a great whatever, but there are some impediments. I think Smith Drugs is probably, you know, it's probably some of the position ultimately. That can be that can be rented out. There might be some issues.
Yep.
You know, for costs with that, but the others, that's a challenge.
It is a challenge. They all have each other challenges too. I think too, you find this in a lot of communities. Like I said, absentee landlords, and like you were just saying, they collect and puts you in a tough position as a town employee trying to attract new businesses. And they're like, I've been calling this for, you know. So there's a lot of challenges. Nothing that we can't try something new to try to get over it. But yeah,
what has been tried hasn't worked. So this council, you know, to the extent you can come up with new ideas, that would be incredibly helpful to support Erin what she's doing.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to jump in on that topic. Like, I don't know if this is something that has been tried, but I know a lot of like bigger cities, especially post-COVID, have implemented like penalties for vacant storefronts.
Yes.
Is that something that the town has tried with those landlords?
It went to town
It
meeting.
went
and
to
got-
town meeting and lost badly.
Yeah, there's no bylaw. My understanding is there's no bylaw, right?
They tried to get it to pass.
I bet you it would pass now. I bet you, do you think it would pass now? You would know better than me. You still don't think it would pass? A bylaw to say that you can't, whatever
The enforcement is a whole other piece of it. I
The
mean,
enforcement is obviously a difficult issue, and having been downtown for nearly 40 years, there's been a flux over time of businesses coming in and out. The Chamber of Commerce ran an alley for decades. We've tried so many different ways to get people downtown. A lot of the ideas that popped around that I think need to have more people interested in being downtown. And some businesses who can see their way past some of the issues that they have with the buildings. And I think part of that's the facade piece. And if you can dress up the outside, it makes it easier for someone to work on dressing up the inside with a business they think that's going to be successful downtown. As far as, historically, we have had areas when we were painting windows and painting the paper and making, some of the design stuff downtown, trying to look a little more appealing. But fining people for not getting their spaces rented, I think crosses some lines.
I think it would pass.
Private property laws.
It's in other municipalities. It's
I know.
because you're not part of the community. You're not helping. So I would think it would. I think it would pass now.
The concept.
No. It's in other municipalities.
I know it is.
But I guess like another consideration is, if we have some challenging landlords, and Ali, Will, and Chris can probably speak to this more than anyone. At some point, it's like, all right, well, maybe we think in a different direction. How do we perhaps encourage other developers to come in and try to buy up those properties somehow? So maybe it's that we've exhausted all of the capital, and it's just not going to work. They just don't have the interest or incentive. But maybe we can talk to someone that we've seen who's developed elsewhere in town or in some other community, and we say, all right, this is a real opportunity, and we try to put you together, and then we try to incentivize a new purchaser to then come in and reimagine that space rather than trying to have the same, the same folks that we've tried to work with, because maybe there just isn't the interest there. If you've left a building rather dilapidated for a decade plus, then you're probably not that engaged in the community, and whatever your incentives or disincentives are to maintain that as you are, maybe just something totally differently. Is there a way that we can somehow make these connections with, I know somebody who's really looking to build and do something new. A lot of what we don't have in downtown proper here now is the mixed use we're talking about. When you think about commercial on the first floor, retail, and then 2 and 3 stories above with housing. It makes perfect sense. You could walk downstairs and grab your coffee in the morning, right? We don't have enough of that. Many of our downtown spaces are 1 story when you think about that. The heart of this downtown, it addresses the housing issue that we're talking about. It's still commuter, centric, but it's also in the heart of our business district. And so building up, 2 stories, 3 stories, whatever the case may be, keeps with the character of the downtown, but reimagines it in a way that we can as a town do it, but we can through developers or contacts, think about trying to bring in some new fresh blood and perspective. We don't have it.
so Erin,
Can I just say, I just want to say 2 things. One, about what Rocco said earlier. So just want to make everyone aware, people who watch this, like we did hire a townwide social worker, probably one of the best things that I think I've done on my time with the council. And Jason works with the unhoused population, as does public safety. It is a priority for the town, and we work really hard. It is a problem that is across the nation, not just in Wakefield, but we do have.
I agree with that.
So I just want to reiterate that we have council has invested, the town has invested. It is not an easy problem. I mean, years we have been working with the individuals. So I just want to say that. And
yeah,
you know, you can always call public safety if you think someone's in distress, or help them out, like show compassion, call Health and Human Services, call Town Hall. You know, that's a problem that everyone deals with, and we are working on it. A lot of us meet monthly to discuss it and work on it. So just wanted to clear that. And the second, the vacant storefront, we tried it at town meeting. I think it was my first, it was before I was on town council actually, and it went down really poorly because we as the town and most individuals don't want to tell property owners what to do. And that is our individual New England spirit. We don't want to tell other people what to do. I will say, I think what the council does also have the opportunity, and it's something about finding developers to buy some of these buildings, or, you know, encouraging, I know you do those connections, is something, when you talked about all the highlights you do, Erin, you kind of forgot, but last summer you did this amazing pop-up.
Oh, yeah,
and I think there's an opportunity to do pop-ups inside of some of these vacant buildings, go to the businesses, because what is also on this list that I think we need to think about is starting a business. It's really easy for us to have an idea. I don't have a business. So for me to be like, it would be great to have a bike store. Starting a business is really hard, and being an entrepreneur is really hard. And renting a whole place would be really hard as a new business. But if I rented a stall, and we have so many people that in a stall could do their stuff, and so we come up with a pop-up store. I know Portland, Oregon has a ton of those. They're in Vermont a lot. And is that something that we talk to the business of, like, look, we rent, and using, you know, town money, you rent from us, just like you did I thought the pop-up this summer was great, you know?
Yeah, it was the highlight so far.
And sometimes people need to start with that smaller before they go to you know, 3,000
It's not as scary
foot.
for the property owner, it's not as scary for the business owner. And that's conversations I've continued to have with the folks that help me organize that project pop-up to potentially now move into, I know Melrose has it, because we have so many businesses out there that are just doing it out of their homes or at least for pop, and are just scared to take that next step. So it wouldn't be as scary just to test out their product. So that's definitely been on my radar. Yeah, that was really great. I still can smile about it. Did everyone go to that pop-up last year?
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Because it was so great, but the thing that, you know, it's based on weather, it's based on summer. And so to have it outside like that in the summer, but then find something that you can bring inside for other months.
I would love to do a year-long pop-up. But I think these are all really great ideas. I was just taking a few different notes, and then I decided to put them all kind of like buckets you were saying. And I think kind of how we move forward, and maybe what I could do too is put these different goals and objectives that we have highlighted in this document in these different buckets, if you will. So kind of what I heard from this group tonight, and mistake me if I'm wrong, I wrote down like 6 different things. And actually the pop-up is what I just put down before you said that. Is kind of one, supporting our current businesses. Like, what does that look like? Small businesses, if it's like grants and facades, is it just mentorships? How do we do that? Large businesses, I look at their problems as more like transit-based. How do we attract talent to come to these businesses that are here, expand within Wakefield, make it easy to streamline through the permitting process when they want to do that. The second thing I have was impediments of attracting businesses. What are we missing? I think your point of like, maybe we aren't as welcoming. Why aren't, maybe we don't have the answers of why we're not attracting businesses. So maybe we need to dive in this group a little deeper on what that is. The third thing I have is marketing Wakefield as a place to be. How do we do this and build off kind of some marketing things that we've already done? And that could be used across the board from small to large, for property owners as well, for brokers that are working with property owners. The fourth thing I had was incentives. I would say financial incentive for small businesses, large businesses, and property owners. Talking about, again, the grants and facade for small businesses, maybe some grants to redo the inside of their stores, e-commerce, things like that. Large businesses, whether that be any workforce development type things. And property owners, maybe it's redoing upper stories, getting some cash flow there to incentivize them to kind of what you were just talking about. A lot of buildings too aren't ADA compliant, so if there's any way that we could assist with something like that. And then the fifth one I have was creative ideas. Like, I think that's what's really exciting to me about economic development is getting creative. You know, the pop-ups, kind of event-based type economic development activities, I think the rec and the pickleball, I think that kind of falls into that to drive people to town. And then the last thing I just noted, but I didn't think this one through all the way, was commercial real estate and bringing in new development within our commercial districts, which may fall within that incentive. Find out what barriers are currently there with people that may want to develop in town, more real estate, housing, commercial. Why aren't we having people invest in our downtown with this new bylaw that we have in place? How does that sound?
It sounds good. I mean, you know, the welcoming piece. Felt that way, but there's got to be a way to become more welcoming and promote welcoming. Downtown right now, there's a 6,000 square foot space in an absolutely beautiful building that is been for lease for probably something up on 6 months or a year. It could be a stunning space. How do you find someone that has the kind of money to invest in downtown Wakefield to develop a 6,000 and build a 6,000 square foot restaurant downtown? I mean, building's stunning. It's a beautiful Sean Bank building. It's beautiful space.
It needs a lot of work.
It needs a fortune thrown at it. So how do you find someone that wants to invest in a restaurant? $1 million. That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, in part, certainly, yeah. Because that's an investment for our town. If that becomes an anchor property, that drives people, and that helps all the businesses around us.
If you get one,
should be an anchor property. Yeah. So, if there's one thing your economic development committee could do, it is to create an anchor space downtown. Have one. How do we fit it out?
Perhaps that could be one of the first things that we think about from a project perspective, operation anchor property. You know, so we think about, and we approach it from all the different ways that we've discussed. How do we attract the right business? How do we make it more, a more welcoming, opportunity? How do we look at tax incentives? How do we look at how do we reach out to developers in a different way and leverage contacts? I think there's that probably encapsulates a lot of what we discussed here tonight.
So I think next steps, this was just a great conversation, I think, for all of us to have. Kind of what I highlighted here, if I go through and maybe kind of put some of these goals and objectives in kind of these buckets, and we can kind of maybe next meeting talk that through and how do we push them forward, I guess. Does that make sense from the group?
I thought it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Now it's, to me, it feels like tonight was, strategic planning, brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
You heard some great stuff. So now we can package it.
Yeah.
The subcommittees, how do you put this together to get something productive? Not that tonight wasn't.
I feel like on the real estate side, what we do in the industry and the committee makes sense, which is separating 1 to 4 units as a bucket of properties, and then bigger commercial as a bucket, and then separating office from warehouse and like stuff on Water Street and industrial, and it's sort of bringing in the zoning map a little bit and then looking at what the master plan is, but really thinking of them differently, because somebody who owns like that pet store on Albany, like that's a really cool business with apartments above. I think an incentive for that would be like owner occupied incentives. If you live in the property and operate your business, well, I don't know, I'm going to say something stupid, like shave a point off your mortgage, whatever. The bigger guys, it's not money, it's time. They're accruing interest in development.
There's a tax law that does that. So if you're owner occupied, you get a percentage off your property tax.
The residential exception. But lenders, commercial lenders, sometimes they have special loans for owner occupied mixed use, like two to 4 years.
You're right. Absolutely. Very true.
And if we had some presence of a community bank on this council.
That's
I'm looking at one that
where we come in.
this idea.
Well, we our bank, just to say, we could do more small business lending. The SBA program is alive and well. And I know that we could do more. I know we reached out to some of the small businesses and some of the places around town that had PPP loans with us, and we reached out to them recently and just kind of did a mailing and see how they were doing and if they needed anything, that kind of thing. So that's certainly a step in the right direction. But speaking for Wakefield Cooperative Bank, I know that we could do more when it comes to community lending and improving our CRA.
I'm gonna take down all these notes. I think we've had a really, people on Zoom. Yeah, do you have anything to add? I know Rocco was just talking, but Kimberly or Will?
To kind of jump on what Rocco was referring to before in the new outdoor brewery space in Medford, he's 100% right. There are breweries opening up either beer halls or secondary breweries all over the state. And I have actually been in touch with about 6 or 7 different owners of said breweries to see where they're looking to move to next. One of the problems that they've been facing is finding suitable housing for said brewery. The infrastructure to build it, the location is super important. And there are some points around the lake that would work. But it's not where 10, 15 years ago, it was more perhaps shunned upon, but now it is more of a communal situation where a lot of the locations are super kid friendly, where, if you want to take a break on a Saturday with friends or, any of a number of examples, I just think it would be a huge benefit to have to make Wakefield a location like that, where you have, for example, Vitamin C Brewery out of Weymouth. They are on the cusp of expanding to another location, and they're one of the top 15 breweries in the state right now. And we're adding pieces to this puzzle. It's not going to just be one person and one idea. It's going to be a collaborative. In regards to, and that's kind of what I bring to the table. I think that would be really fun and definitely a big plus.
The choice of children.
Sorry about that. Yes, children are something that's definitely affecting this meeting right now because it's a little bit past their bedtime. Yeah, 1 second, buddy. 1 second.
Your brewery is right in there.
Pardon me?
Your brewery is right in there. Is it brewery?
Right, he heard that and he's like, what's going on? It's a super complex process, but I think it'll be a big benefit just because of the amount of people that would bring and the name recognition. In regards to the homeless factor, it is definitely a sensitive subject. They tried to ban nips at one point, I think, or they tried to pull out of stores. That failed. That's another complex, multi-pronged situation that is definitely something that affects a lot of parts of the country. But I also own property in Melrose, and I'm very familiar with it. And it's just not the same there. I mean, I don't say maybe I'm wrong, but I've walked both main streets countless times, and I can't really think of maybe 1 or 2 times I've ever seen a homeless person on Main Street in Melrose. So
same can be said for Bill Recker in Wilmington. I live in Bill Recker now.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think everyone wants these people to get help, but there's got to be a better direction that's going to work than it's happened up to this point.
I agree.
chamber has had 2 to 3 meetings with the police and business owners about the problem downtown. So, you know,
I was at that meeting, and then I brought in a small group too, just talking about the process. Like you were saying, we have a great health and human services department now that's really been beefed up. And so I won't talk anymore about that, but just making those connections with the businesses, knowing that the support's there for them if they ever need it, I think is the first step in the right direction. Knowing that if there is an issue, they know who to call. So other than the police, I think too is what it's doing. So thank you. Anything else anyone wants to add? I think I have some homework to do and send around to this group for kind of next steps.
I think that in my experience too, the other thing that we'll all walk away from here is plenty more ideas. And so to the extent that you can send those along to Erin, just keep in mind that we're a working group here, so we're a work in progress, but because we're appointed, so we don't run afoul of any open meeting laws and the like, send your ideas if you would to Erin directly, and then she can kind of push out the information to us, as a whole. But I think that Erin can serve as the aggregator of all that. As we're looking through this. But I think this has been incredibly group.
Just a logistical question, because we are open meeting law. Do we all get a email? Because if you don't want anyone for you.
Oh yeah, so when you do get emails, so if you don't know this already, if you haven't been on a group, a lot of times I try to BCC. So if you'll see an email from me talking to Economic Development Council, I'll try to BCC all your emails so no one can reply back. Because if you do reply back, you're breaking open meeting law. So try to avoid or do not send emails to this large group if you can, because that is breaking open meeting law.
So is it an opportunity just to get everyone on whatever
their emails?
Wakefield email.
Oh, unfortunately, no. We've talked about that before. Like everyone gets their own. No, I don't believe your emails are going to be posted online or anything. I can share each other all your emails so you guys all have it if you don't already. So if you want to one-off email someone, that's perfectly fine. But no, we won't be creating you a Wakefield email, unfortunately. You're just worried if someone wants to see something.
Before you send it. Again, you don't have to give it to a personal.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other question too is going forward. Obviously, it's a little bit longer meeting than we anticipated. Yeah. Wow. But is the 7 p.m. start best for folks? Because we're flexible. We could do something at noon. We could do it at 7 p.m. Is this a comfortable time? I mean, your day of the week can obviously vary, but is this the idea of an evening meetings that work for everyone? Because we have so many really good people here. We want to make sure we have, everyone's engagement whenever we do convene. Does that work for everyone?
Sure.
And then the other question too is just in terms of frequency. It sounds like we'll probably end up obviously meeting periodically, of course, but then a lot of the work may end up being at a subcommittee level or just a smaller kind of ad hoc group level. Are we all comfortable with like regular frequency in terms of the meeting, just to kind of all come together, and again, the hope would be, we understand that you are volunteers, we're incredibly, respectful of your time. So we want to make sure that every minute that you're willing to donate to this, is well spent. So maybe, I don't know, like every months sort of thing, every month, how does that feel?
Yeah, what's the
frequency?
Well, I think, take your buckets. More than.
Sure, no, certainly not.
See how much information you have. Is there a welcome Wakefield something? Is there a property investigation? I mean,
that looks like.
So put the buckets together, see what that looks like, and then maybe talk about some more structural organization and some of that other stuff.
So we're kind of jump to schedule moving forward. So on this item 6, so this is on the record. So how about we'll plan, I'll do the buckets, but why don't we still plan to meet next month if that's okay with everyone, just to get the momentum, get the group back together, and then we can decide from there how we want to break it off, and it could be every 2 months. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah, I think the first few weeks we should meet once a month,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we don't lose momentum.
Yes.
That's all right with
Yeah.
everyone?
I agree.
I haven't signed up for more than you anticipated, but
We're meeting
like,
next
if we
week.
just, we'll meet like on a monthly.
We better have all the problems solved. Were you gonna say something? Sorry,
No,
okay.
nothing. You got it, Erin. This
Okay.
is like,
All right, once
as
a
the
month,
staffer on the meeting, we are gonna defer to you,
Okay.
so.
once a month, and I will. This is. I'm gonna jump back to, item, I don't know if you can put this in either item 4 or item 7, I'll do it item 7. I don't think we're gonna make it to item 5 tonight, overview of previous economic development town plans. We've done a lot of economic development, we have a handful of economic development plans. If you have time to look through them, there might be some really great ideas. A lot of times when you look back at plans, I found one recently from my predecessor, 20 years ago, he was trying the same thing I'm trying now. So, you know, there might be some really great ideas in there, in some of those plans, that we can implement. So if you have the time, that'd be awesome.
I'll find the one from 1986.
It's probably the same. We're talking about the same stuff. All right, so everyone's good with skipping number 5, given the time it is right now?
Yeah.
And then item 6, I think we'll plan for a month from now, send dates around, and you can let me know individually if that date works for you and time. And then item number 7, items not anticipated. I meant to add this to the agenda, but it was too late. I think it'd be really important for us to have a chair for this group. I will not be a chair because I'm the internal staff. And so I've never, you know, if someone wants to nominate themselves or nominate someone else to be chair of this, we can do that this meeting or wait till next meeting. I think it doesn't matter which meeting we do it. I think having a chair would offer me a little more direction too, and how the meetings would be structured. And also I would love to have a secretary to take notes. I can also do that too. I found with the MBTA working groups, it was hard to answer questions while trying to do notes at the same time. Do we want to do chair nominations tonight? Does that sound good? A chair, or do you want to think about it?
I can defer that to meeting 2.
Meeting 2? So people can think about
I
what.
agree. Yeah, good idea.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have anything else?
Fabulous work, all of you.
We're excited how this hybrid meeting worked out.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to, yes, that's it, right?
So second.
Motion, okay.
All in
Second.
favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.